Has anyone heard from Karina?
I'm here.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Mr. Miller will not be with us tonight, so I think everyone else is here. Welcome to all of you who are with us this evening via Zoom, and welcome to all of you who will be joining us on delayed broadcast through the recording. We will have a time for public comment as always during our board meeting. You'll need to have contacted Paulette prior to the meeting to speak during that time. Have we received any requests, Paulette?
Yes, we have. And Amy is going to promote that person during public comment.
Thank you. Please remember that you'll be given 5 minutes to speak and that the board cannot reply to any of your comments at this time, according to our board policy. Please read with me the mission statement for the Marshalltown Community School District. We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. Thank you. And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any additions or changes to our agenda?
Yes, we do have some changes due to background checks coming through. So if you could please pull up the personnel agenda, Amy, I appreciate it. First of all, on page 1, you'll notice that the 2 new administrators coming on, they were pending background checks. They both came back clear and great, so that pending came off, so those 2 were good. And then if you'll scroll down to page 3, please, there are 3 teachers that were added. Jessica Chambers, who has been a substitute teacher with us, will be moving into a full-time position as special ed at Rogers. Danielle Lahr, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, will be a teacher librarian at Rogers. She is pending that license. That should be coming soon. And then assuming that that license is obtained, then Erin Face will be moving into the 4th grade position. So those are the 3 teachers that were added. And then scroll down one more page, please, to page 4. A special education para at Rogers was also added, and that is Catherine Bryant. Those are the changes. Oh, I'm sorry, and technology at the bottom of page 4 there. Todd Golding is currently our district electrician, and until his position is filled, he will be serving in part-time that position and part-time as the new district server specialist in technology. And so once that position is filled, he will be full-time the district server specialist to replace Mike Britt, who also changed positions. So those are the changes for the agenda.
Okay.
Also, B, I'd like to recommend removing item 4.06 from this meeting, and we'll add that to the June 15th meeting as we don't have the information back from our attorney yet.
Okay. Are there any other items for change? May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Heitman, so moved.
Unteed, second.
Heitman, Unteed, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0. Mr. Sodders, moving on to recognitions.
Hi, everybody. Well, we have several again this week. One of the major ones is dual graduates. So as you probably have all seen, we had 9 of our exceptional students at the high school level. Not only will they be earning their diploma this year to end their high school tenure, but they also have earned an associate's degree thanks to our partnership with Marshalltown Community College. So It's very impressive that they were able to do this. This is not easy work to do, to balance both of those things and excel at both. And I believe we have several of those students. The students are Carmen Araiza and Mia Barajas, who of course we know as two of our 3 student school board members from this year, as well as Olivia Brintnall, Grace Fisher, Sailor Hempy, Amanda Hoffman, Trevor Ketchum, Casey Udi, and Liz Vargas. And I believe we have several of them on with us. See Carmen. So if Amy, if you could get Carmen on there. There should be several more than that.
Trevor is on there as well.
Trevor's on. I see Mia. It looks like Mia and Liz are also on. And maybe we could have the folks we have right now, and I believe at least a couple more will be joining us from what they told me earlier last week. So if maybe we could start with Carmen.
Am I on?
You are.
Oh, okay. So I guess my experience with getting my associate's degree, I didn't really pursue it till last year. I decided maybe halfway through or towards the end that I was going to go for my associate's. And something that really helped me out was taking the CLEP test, which got me a lot of my credits. And that's how I was able to do it. It's been a really fantastic opportunity in terms of getting to, I guess, time management was a huge thing for me since I had a lot of classes the first semester, and then my second semester of senior year was a little bit easier, but still kind of stressful.
Well, congratulations with your achievements. It's pretty remarkable.
Thank you.
And if Trevor or Mia or Liz, I know they're all on as well. If you guys, I believe all of you should be able to speak if you would like, if you have anything you'd like to add.
I can go ahead and talk. I really appreciate everything that MHS and MCC have done for us. It really gave us all, I think all 9 of us, a way to push ourselves to get ourselves ready for college. And I think a lot of us, it gave us a drive to stay active in education. A lot of us wouldn't have had very many classes senior year if it wasn't for the MCC degree that pushed us to, still have 5-6 classes a semester, whether those be online or at MHS or MCC.
Wonderful, Trevor. Thanks so much, especially from your old principal.
Yeah.
Mia, Liz?
Can you guys hear me? I don't think mine's working.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I just can't see you guys. I also really appreciate the opportunity. My opportunity was a little different because I actually had all of my classes at MCC, but I actually really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
Then I don't know, Liz, if you wanted to share.
I think she's also having trouble joining. We're texting each other.
I see she's a panelist.
I think you have to unmute her because you guys had to unmute me and then I could hear you, but I still can't see you.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, I really like that all the credits that we would take in high school, like if we took PLTW, that would transfer towards our AA because I took college classes since I was a freshman, which made it easier to achieve my AA at the end of like the high school 4 years.
You've all made remarkable achievements and worked very hard to receive both the Seal of Literacy and bilingual literacy and your AA degree. We're proud of all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then B, that segues us nicely into our next recognition, which is Rachel Inks, who is our Director of English Language Learners and Migrant Programs here at the district. I'm not sure if she's able to make it. She wasn't, she asked me earlier about that today, but she, unless Amy, if you see her on there, please feel free to add her to the panelists. But of course, as you all know, also, we had some good news come out last week that we had 54 of our students earn the Seal of Biliteracy that's designated from the state of Iowa. And that shows proficiency in English as well as one other world language. And of course, as we all know, we have many, many languages spoken within our district. It's one of the great things about our district. And now we have a way for students to really show their skills and their dedication to learning more than one language. So, and we also want to congratulate those students, and we want to thank Rachel and the folks she works with for helping ensure. I mean, we saw almost fourfold increase since last school year in the number of our students who earned that seal, and hopefully that will only continue to rise.
Adam, can I chime in for a second there too, since
Yeah.
Rachel's not here?
Yeah.
I wanted to give a lot of credit also to the Marshalltown High School World Language Department, the Spanish teachers, the French teachers, and the ESL teachers, because they took this project on as a team and they set goals last fall about, they looked at our data from last year and how many kids were able to succeed and things that went well and didn't go well. And they dug in and worked with Mrs. Wyant and Rachel to coordinate a December testing for the kids, which helped immensely because it gave kids motivation to get better and time to do so. So a lot of the kids were able to take, just the pieces of the test that they didn't quite hit the mark in again in the spring. And then with our COVID closure, it became incredibly interesting because the kids have to take the exam on a secure browser on their Chromebooks. So they had to come to school, but couldn't come into school. So they came to sheltered areas outside of the high school and took the test under the proctor guidance of one of their teachers. So our teachers were out there in all kinds of weather, helping our kids one-on-one, which is just awesome. The story got picked up by the Iowa Department of Education too. They ran a nice piece on it statewide. So kudos to everybody that was involved with that work.
Great accomplishment for a number of students today. Thanks for sharing that, Adam.
Yeah. And then the only other one to share would be Pizza Hut and Wendy's. Of course, they provided some very nice treats for all of those students who are going to the bus route, the meals close to home feeding sites, as well as our school sites. We're able to get pizza and a couple of free Frosties out of the deal, I think, too, which now that we're headed into the warm time of year, that's probably quite nice. So anyway, just wanted to thank those two businesses for their kind gesture.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Looking at the minutes of May 18th, are there any additions or corrections from anyone? Any items of note other than the ones you mentioned in personnel, Nora?
I believe Principal Wyant has some words to share.
Okay.
Can you see me now? Okay. I would just like to introduce and say a few words about the two new associate principals coming to the high school. Michael Dale has been at Nottoway Valley for the last 3 years. Prior to that, he was a teacher in Ankeny School District in the at-risk building there. He earned his degrees, 2 of them, from Drake University and University of Northern Iowa. And he also earned his educational leadership degree or certification from the University of Northern Iowa. We're excited to have Michael on board. William Terry is also joining us from the Des Moines Public Schools. While he was there, he served as a special education teacher. Prior to that, he was a vice principal lead teacher at Woodbury Academy for 6 years. So very excited about his experience with at-risk youth. And he graduated from Iowa State University, the Iowa State University, and has his educational leadership endorsement from Drake University. We're excited to also have William on board.
Are either of them with us to speak?
I think I did invite both of them, but I can't see that side. So they were planning on it.
Just want to say greetings to everyone in the Marshalltown community. My name is Michael Dale. Thank you, Jackie, for the wonderful introduction. Just want to express my gratitude to everyone for the opportunity to come serve the district. Really looking forward to starting in Marshalltown July 1. And right now, just buttoning things up, working on transition out of Nottoway Valley with the start of summer sports and everything going on here. But really excited to serve the district of Marshalltown and really appreciative of the opportunity and looking forward to getting to know the staff, the students, and the community as we transition forward. Thank you.
Welcome to Marshalltown.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, my name is William Terry. Pretty excited to be joining the Bobcat family, and thank Ms. Wyant and the rest of the panel for inviting me on board. I'm just ready to get going July 1 as well, and really getting to meet the community, students, teachers, just the whole shebang and getting this going. So really excited, and yeah, just looking forward to next steps and learning as a administrator, and yeah, helping students and families is my goal.
Welcome to you as well. And we look forward to actually seeing both of you at a future board meeting where we might all be together in the same room again someday. Moving on to interagency agreements and contracts. We have a sales order with Nearpod in the amount of $52.50. It's a comprehensive student engagement platform that will be used at the high school. We have a contract with Iowa Valley Community College for Summer College Credit Program 2020. We have an agreement between Marshalltown District and Four Oaks Family and Children's Services to provide services for the 2021 school year. And then we also have an amendment to that agreement to provide special ed services from June 1 to August 31 of 2020. Any questions on any of those agreements or contracts?
This is Bob Unteed. I probably need to recuse myself from voting at all on the Iowa Valley contract, right? I'll just do it. I'll just recuse myself, and then, you know, I won't have to worry about that potential.
Okay. Okay. Looking at open enrollments, we have 2 out and 4 denials. Any items of note in bills, Paulette? Looking at gifts, grant.
I'm sorry, may I ask one question about bills?
Sir.
I once in a while like to suggest that I'm paying attention. So can I find out again, maybe I've known this, what TransFinder Corporation is? Do you know, Paulette?
Yes, TransFinder provides our software for transportation department.
Oh, that's a good name. Thank you. I just wondered about that $23,000. Thank you.
Looking at gifts, grants, and bequests, we have in a grant in the amount of 14,000 plus to cover tuition for general education 3-year-olds in our special needs 3-year-old classrooms. Are there any questions on any of the other items? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Faltus, so moved.
Second, Karina.
Faltus, Hernandez, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0. Moving on to public comment, Paulette.
I marked that as 5-1 because I marked Bob as abstaining. Is
Thank
that
you.
correct?
Yes,
good.
Okay.
even though I saw his mouth move. Yes, you're correct, Paulette. Thank you. Moving on to the public comment section, Paulette. You're muted.
I did receive an email from Amy Pollard requesting to speak during public comment. And so I think Amy Armson has promoted her.
My name's Amy Pollard. My address is 2027 Edgebrook Drive, and I am a parent of a high school softball player. And I know Brian Isgrig is going to be addressing the board tonight about the softball and baseball things that are in place related to COVID-19. And I just wanted to address the board. I've expressed my concern to Dr. Schutte, but I just also wanted to talk to the board a little bit about the use of wearing face masks in the dugout. That is a decision that Marshalltown has put in place. It is not an Iowa High School Athletic Union rule, and it is not a state rule. That is something that just Marshalltown has adopted. My concern about Marshalltown adopting that rule for our student athletes is that wearing a face mask in the dugout, I've done some research on it, and it shows that it can cause hypoxia, which is a lack of oxygen to the lungs. It's similar to what elite athletes do when they wear an oxygen deprivation mask or training in a high altitude climate. I understand the need to keep our athletes safe, but they are signing a COVID waiver. And my concern for our student athletes is that if we are putting a mask on them in the dugout, are we putting them at risk for something else besides COVID-19? An asthma attack, a fainting, dizziness, hallucinations, all those things in the research that I've done has shown that that could happen. I also understand that the athletes are not going to be wearing them on the field. I understand that they're not going to be wearing them when they're, quote, exercising, but my concern is on a 95-degree day when we have our student athletes running bases and then coming into the dugout and putting on a mask, are we going to be depleting them of oxygen that they need to recover to get back out on the field? My concern is especially with our pitchers and catchers who are exerting a lot of energy. And so that's something that I just want the board to consider and think about tonight when Ryan Isgrig is giving you the things. I'm so thankful that Marshalltown made the decision for our student athletes to go ahead and play, and we'll support whatever decision is made because I think it's important for our kids to get out there and play. But the use of masks in the dugout, I think, needs to be reconsidered. Coach Palmering on the softball side has some things in place to keep the number of athletes in the dugout limited. He's going to put canopies down the right field fence line and the left field fence line so that the maximum number of players in the dugout at a time would be 10. You have one person on the on deck circle and one person at bat, which will make it 8 students or 8 athletes in the dugout. Hopefully we'll get some kids on base, so that will eliminate that number, or will make that number even lower. And the dugout's big enough that they should be able to spread apart. A lot of the research shows that being outside and being in heat makes it hard for the virus to spread as well. So That's the only thing that I wanted to come and talk to you about tonight. I have shared my concerns directly with Dr. Schutte, and he was very nice in his reply to me and explained his point of view, but I just wanted to express my concerns with the board. In a survey that was conducted on band with the athletes and parents, 100% of them are not in favor of wearing the masks either. So they'll wear them though, if that's what it means that they have to do to play. Just want to thank you for, thank Paulette for letting me get on since I was way past the 4 o'clock deadline. So thank you, Paulette, for squeezing me on, and thanks, Amy, for getting me on here quick as a panelist, because I know I was past the 4 o'clock deadline. But just want to let the board know kind of the thoughts and things that were out there. And I fear that we could open ourselves up as a district to something bad that could happen that we don't want to happen to one of our athletes that's not COVID related, if we're depriving them of an intake of oxygen to their lungs. So
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other comments, Paulette?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Then let's move on to the education section. Mr. Black is here to visit with us. Dr. Schutte, do you want to do the introductions?
It's my pleasure to once again introduce Brad Black, CEO of HumanX. Brad has been a partner with us the 4 years that I've been here for both our training and utilization of HumanX tools for hiring the highest quality candidates that we can find for all of our staff positions, not just teaching or administrating, but all positions. And we've partnered with HumanX to conduct a culture survey for the past 3 of the past 4 years. We did take a year off last spring from assessing. And so welcome, Brad, and we look forward to the district-wide results.
Thank you. And just real quick on time check, I want to be sensitive to when we need to be wrapping up. 6 o'clock?
If you're still talking at 8 o'clock, we're shutting you off.
That won't happen, I promise. I promise. All right, well, let's see. I need to get the screen sharing sent my way if I could, unless you have it on your end and I could guide you through it. I can do it either way.
I do not have it. Just one moment.
Can you click on share
All right.
screen, Brad?
Yep. Are you able to now, Brad?
I think this will work. Hold on. Does everybody see that?
Nope.
Well, I'm seeing it, but
So at the bottom middle, there's a green screen share button. If you click right on the green arrow pointing up, yep, there you go.
better?
Now we have it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, I'll be sensitive to time, but just want to make sure you guys get a chance to also stop me with any questions throughout, and we'll just kind of give you an overview of what we did, why we did it, how we did it, and then get into the results. So when we focus on our work in the culture efforts, whether it's social emotional learning, student engagement, family community engagement, we always focus on starting with staff, which we sometimes will refer to as adult SEL. So to make the framework, the conditions in a culture where everybody has a voice, where we understand where the strengths and opportunities are, we have an anonymous confidential survey designed over many years, actually many decades, to understand what are the drivers of a great climate and culture. So we'll go into the details of the dimensions. There's 15 dimensions that comprise the overall survey. There's a bottom line that I will highlight. So out of the 15 dimensions, there are 2 to give us a clear picture, kind of bottom line, of the strength of the culture. And that's referred to as our culture snapshot, or 3x3, where we can see over 600 people, how they feel when it comes to giving their all, i.e. Engagement, and doing it there at Marshalltown, which is satisfaction. Towards the end, on the back half, we'll talk about what are the strongest dimensions and what are the strongest questions, as well as the bottom dimensions and the bottom questions. So it's literally the mountaintops all the way down to the valleys. We'll get a chance to review that out of the 88 questions that we've asked. So again, just to reiterate, online assessment. So it's a way that can be done in a high quality, anonymous, confidential fashion. It's very time efficient. We get high participation. 88 total questions that are designed on a Likert scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is I strongly disagree, 2 is I disagree, 3 is undecided, 4 is agree, 5 is strongly agree, and we have a 6th category, can't comment, don't know, not applicable, because there's times when people haven't been there long enough to have an answer, and we don't want to distort the results by having somebody put a 3 when they can't answer it. So that's the design of that. Again, we talk about the 15 dimensions. And one thing unique to our design is that it's a little bit like the solar system, where we say, what are the dimensions or the drivers of engagement? Well, they're the individual person. So if we adopt a growth mindset, we know that everybody makes decisions themselves about their attitude and their effort. So you'll see when we go through the results that there's a lot of I questions that are rated high, which is really a person evaluating themselves. You'll also see that there are questions focused on who they work with, more the horizontal team and department, the vertical view, which is the person I report to, and then the holistic, broader view of the whole organization. So it's not a focus on one dimension or one audience or a group of stakeholders. It's a focus on 4 levels, and we get a chance to see that the maximum level of engagement is going to start with a person and include the team and include the person they report to and be impacted by the organization. So that's a little bit of the background, why we measure it and how we measure it. Again, stop me anytime you have any questions about the design or the results, and I'm happy to stop and answer those questions. Any questions yet? All right. Participation, we're always pleased when it's above 80. That means that's a lot of information when we have 672 people that actually participated. So we have 672 people times 88 questions. That's how many data points we have in the results that we're highlighting. We know we get great actionable information when we're at this level. I had many, many years leading practices and strategy at Gallup, and we would be happy if we had 50% participation. So when it's above 80, you should be thrilled. That means there's been great communication in the process. People will find it credible, and people will look at it and say, it's worth my time to participate. So again, we feel great about the participation being at that level consistently above the 80%. When we think about the bottom line, I mentioned this earlier, there is this information at the building department level, but when we're looking at overall the district, we roll it up, and this is a result of 672 people. So to put this into context, again, this is the measurement of 2 of the 15 dimensions, engagement, which is the x-axis, and satisfaction, which is the y-axis. And that 68.90 in the upper right is what we refer to as the dream box. It's kind of a dream when you meet somebody, or you are that person, or you work with that person who gives their all and they want to be there to do it. So especially when you think about somebody who's interacting with a student, would you like to have somebody who's highly engaged and wants to be there, or somebody who's not? So 68.90 is in context to, if we would look at the world would be somewhere between 32 and 35. So a normal organization that you would randomly assess would be about a half of what you have. So you might look at this and say double good. This is a strong, healthy culture. Does everybody feel the same way about everything? No. Does everybody feel great about the same topics? No. There's a wide range. But when you have double the normal world in the highly engaged, highly satisfied category, that's terrific. To round out and to put into context, the InterL, which is the 432, the 1131, and the 9.08, that also in the world is about a third. So yours is much lower, which is where you get the 68.9. And in the broad world, the outer 5 are another third. So when you think about what's the behavior of somebody who really doesn't want to be here, who we're paying, or, you know, they really don't want to be here, and we expect them to perform at a high level. So again, this person that self-reports at a 2.98 and that percentage doesn't feel the same way as the person in the dream box, but they're accurately or honestly reporting that's how they feel. So again, the good news is that you've got double in the dream box, and you've got a small fraction of what the world would have on the rim, as we would call it, on the low satisfaction and low engagement combination. So this, again, results of 672 people answering all the questions in these two dimensions. Questions as you look at that?
Are the boxed numbers previous
The last
year?
time we did it, yes. So this is longitudinal information. So you can look and say, from the last time measured, it went from 60 to 68.9, which is, solid. You look at this, as a trend to continue, 80% is world-class. So just again, as a context, when we can look at this over a decade plus and look at districts or organizations across industry that are being written about in books and magazines and newspapers and highlighted on TV, they're going to be above 80. And that's not a snapshot of the 1 year and they're there. That's a result of efforts over many years to get there. Great question. Any other questions on this slide before I go into more detail on the dimensions? All right. So again, you look at the trend, 55% when we did this 3 years ago, 60% 2 years ago, up to the 69 rounded off this time. So a really solid trend of a culture that's getting stronger over time. All right, now we get into the details of the dimensions. So again, here's the rank order of strongest to weakest with the trend showing in that last column on the right-hand side, the current mean of that dimension. Previous mean is the column to the left of that. So we can see that 15 out of 15 dimensions progressed are stronger than they were compared to the time measured 2 years ago. So again, in context, the scores on the 1 to 5 scale, we look at 4 as the strength threshold. So on average, that means people are agreeing with all the questions in that category when it hits the 4. That doesn't mean every question hit the 4. It means on average, all the questions that are in that dimension, which would be between 4 and 8 questions, would be above 4. So roughly half of the dimensions are at a strength level, and the lowest at a 387 is not that far away from strength. So it's not like we're going down into the valleys, when you look at the lowest on a relative basis at a 387, it just is, there's always going to be lowest, there's always going to be worst. And actually recognition in the world is consistently going to be the 15th ranked dimension. But good news is that instead of 387, the world would rate about a 3.4. So your lowest or worst is much higher than where the world would be on the same dimension. I'll take a minute and just go through kind of a summary of each of the dimensions. We talked about engagement, inspiration, and this is people giving their all. Self-reporting about themselves, their peers, who they report to, and the conditions in the district. Those are billboard items when you would want to put out on the highway how people, 672 people, talk about, how they feel about, their work in the district. Pride is a 426. We always see pride and engagement together. They're either both high, both medium, both low. They're very similar and they drive each other. It's almost this virtuous cycle or relationship. When you drive pride, you drive an engagement. When you drive an engagement, you're driving pride. So that's when people are kind of wearing the uniform, proud about what they're doing, proud of who they're doing it with. That's going to be measured in that pride dimension. It also reflects high standards. It typically reflects quality and progress in the district and what they're involved in. So again, there's many parts of pride, but you always want to see that high. Continuous improvement is a dimension that you see consistent with strong cultures, which bottom line means we're not satisfied and we think we can do better. It's more of an incremental process approach, is what's next, what's better, but you don't see continuous improvement high in poor cultures. You see continuous improvement high in strong cultures. Innovation is similar to continuous improvement, but it's more of a paradigm shift. It's a first ever. It's a best practice. It's going, across, the state or the profession to look at who's doing something in a leader category, not a follower category. That typically is going to be measured in innovation. And typically innovation is quite a gap below continuous improvement. So the fact that yours is so high, it means, as we look at interpret results, that this a district that's very intentional about being innovative, about being first, about being better. Satisfaction, we talked about that. That's, I want to be where I'm at. I want to be here. I don't want to be someplace else. Quality is the quality of outcomes, the quality of people, quality of the environment. Training and development is the investment in the skill set, the knowledge base. It's an investment mindset and capability and capacity. Talent and fit is anywhere from, am I in the right role? Am I in a role that I enjoy and do well at? What about the standards of selection in our district? Are people in the right roles? So that's a combination of all of those questions. Career development is, are we talking about my interest, where I would be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? Would I have the opportunity to be here long-term, or do I have a short-term focus? We typically see where training and development is high, career development is going to be high as well, because there's an investment mindset in the district for the people. Not always, but that's very consistent. Performance planning is consistently one of the bottom third dimensions, and that really is goal setting. So what that tells us is not only being where it's ranked, but also where it's rated at a 394, there has to be efforts to set goals in a much better way than we see across education generally, or we see across organizations. Because typically organizations have a rear view mentality of what did we do and where are we at versus where are we at and what could we do? What should we do? How do we engage people in more of the windshield discussion than the rear view mirror discussions? So 394 not only is strong, but you went up by 0.21 from the last time it was measured, which would be double what we would consider to be significant. Mission consciousness is, are we clear? Are we aligned? Are we inspired by the purpose we have? We're in the kid business, and are we reminded of that? Or do we just kind of do what we do and we don't talk about it? So the stronger, the clear, the more aligned it is, the stronger it's going to be. Communication is typically the 14th ranked dimension. It's one of the hardest. There's a lot of variances from individual to formal to informal to building to cross district. And communication is just one of those where to do it well, the average district or organization doesn't do it well. 389 indicates a strength and progress from the 372 before. So again, there's individual questions in every dimension where you'll have the highest and the lowest rated, and you can see your progress, but overall, strong progress and strong scores, and we're not that far from 4. Relationships is really the partnering, the investment in intentional relationships, typically in the building, across roles where you don't see a stratification of I'm in this role and you're in that role. It's more of we're a team. We're a team here focused on our students, focused together, to build teamwork relationships and partnership relationships. Support and equip is the core of what the person I report to should focus on. Do you support me with the means for me to do my role? communication, information, materials. It doesn't have to be anything that costs money, but does the person I report to focus their energy on what I need to do my job well? And we consistently see that in the bottom third, but a 388 is strong. And again, 0.2 from stronger than the last time. I mentioned recognition earlier that it's in the normal position of 15th, but it's not rated at the same level we typically see at a 387. So not only progress from 373, but if you have that progress at the same rate, you all of a sudden will be in the 4 the next time you do this. So again, looking at the trends, looking at the strength, looking at the scores, looking at the dimensions, this is kind of a bottom line view of when you put all the buildings and departments together, this is what you have at the district level. I'll stop for a minute to make sure I answer any questions that you might have about the dimensions, scores, context, meaning, trends, anything that'd be helpful. All right, let me go to the highlights at the highest level of the survey. So the top items out of 88, all of them start with I, or I, like number 1 is I have the opportunity to do things that I both do well and enjoy. So this reinforces where people are self-reporting about themselves, their level of engagement, their level of pride, their level of fit, level of innovation and commitment to that. And so not last time we see previous mean, this time we see current mean, and you had every item that got stronger, and a 4, 5, 6. That's again 672 people rating that question. So you're closer to strongly agree than you are agree. I'm fully engaged in the work that I do. You can feel great about that when you think about 672 people talking about themselves and their level of engagement. Again, you see the reference I made earlier to pride. When pride's high, engagement's high, and vice versa. Question 53, I'm committed to the success of our organization. 447, again, strong and improving. And the next one is talent and fit. In my role, I have the opportunity to do things that I both do well and enjoy. We see this much stronger in your district than we typically see it in other districts. Now, I think we are not surprised in the fact that we also work with your district to equip your administrators to select talent against the standard of one more like your best. So when there's a very conscious, intentional, focused commitment to let's make sure that we are selecting, not hiring with hope, but selecting for talent, people that are hardwired to do their job well, your question number 1 is going to be much higher rated than we typically will see it in a typical school district. So it's not unusual that we see question 1 well down into the 3s, not halfway up the 4s. So again, kudos to you guys for what is not easy, but is what is very important. And then the 5th ranked from the top, question number 16, I'm continuously seeking ways to improve my overall productivity, 442, compared to the 431 before. So those are the strongest 5 compared to where they were last time, reported from 672 people. On this, what we will always coach and recommend is that departments and buildings set goals on the most important item out of the top 5. So we don't ever become satisfied with, well, hey, 4, 5, 6 is pretty good. We don't want to maintain it. We want to keep improving it. We want to figure out what are the conditions that are going to strengthen it. So in our feedback and action planning process, we will always go to the high and talk about what is most important here. If we were going to someday look at it and say it's now a 5, what would it be? What should it be? So again, that's not just to report, it's to put into a process where we improve it. So that's the highest, and now we'll go all the way to the bottom, to the lowest. Relatively speaking, it's the worst, so to speak. Question 61 is the 88th ranked question. Again, nice thing is every one of these improved. So the best improved, the worst improved. It's a relationship question. Our organization has a genuine concern and interest about me as a person. So as we talked about, from the person to the organization, it's from the sun to Pluto, you know, the solar system. You can talk about, well, who are you talking about when you're talking about the organization, the district? Does it have a face? Does it have a name? Or is it just this feeling, you know, out there? Again, when we're looking at the process that we recommend and guide, it's which 2 items in the bottom should we prioritize and identify that we need to be working on these. What would we be doing? Not what got us here. We're really not concerned about the past. We're concerned about where we're at and how we progress. So again, in the feedback and action planning at the building department level, we would be asking, is 61 the one that we should be working on? If it is, what would we be doing? What should we be doing? So the next time somebody could respond and say, I strongly agree with that question, whereas before I didn't. Same thing with the other ones. 65, communication. I feel in on things that are happening in our organization. It's almost always going to be a bottom 5 item. The challenge will be, how do you move it from, you know, 3 to 3.3 to 3.45 to 3.7 to 3.9, someday to 4. It's a hard one, but it's an important one. 31, I provided personal coaching for my supervisor. And you see 28, which is the 5th one on that list, also talking about quality time with my supervisor. So there's a common thread between the two. Do I have one-on-one time, quality time, coaching from the person I report to? We consistently see this lower in education than we see if we go into business or community. So it's one of those dynamics that we see, that sometimes the ratio of the people that are in the leadership roles to the people that are in the buildings, you know, handicaps in some cases. How would I invest that time? How would I make time for everybody? But the ones that are stronger, they figure it out. They're creative. They don't assume it's an hour once a month with everybody. It might be 10 minutes every 90 days. It might be, you know, teacher leaders, instructional coaches, other people that are involved in that coaching relationship. So to make these stronger, again, we come back and we get the ideas from the participants, from the staff, and ask them, what could we do? What should we do? Question 9, the last one in the bottom 5, I've received meaningful recognition the past 10 days. In the world, this is the lowest rated question. Again, you improve from a 3.23 to a 3.53. That's very meaningful, significant change and improvement when it comes to people feeling appreciated. To live in a culture where you could say gratitude is in our culture by design. So, you know, people will perform at a higher level. There'll be more energy when there's greater appreciation and greater gratitude. Doesn't mean that's the reason they come to work, but when they know that they're not taken for granted, that efforts and accomplishments are recognized, whether it's by a peer, whether it's by the person I report to, whether it's formal or informal, it does matter. It's almost like hydraulics under a culture when you can continually make that stronger. So we've gone through the highest, we've gone through the lowest. We've talked about the process that we put in place at the building department level to improve it. Let me make sure that I stop now to answer any questions for anybody before we get to our 6 o'clock target. You feel like you're experts yet? Maybe everyone's muted. I can't hear.
Go ahead and finish up.
All right. Well, again, in terms of the process, first of all, we'd like to say thank you to you and to Theron and the administrators for supporting the effort where we give people a voice and learn from where they're at. We know no building is the same. You have buildings that are ranked highest, you have buildings ranked lowest, but it gets the team at the building level the information to figure out what do we do at a building level to make our culture stronger. We know it has a relationship to student engagement. We know it has a relationship to student achievement and growth when the adults are engaging each other and the students. So it's the place we always would start if you want to build an organization that's going to be strong over time with top results. there any questions or any highlights you want me to drill down on more?
No, I was pleasantly surprised with the results, given we took that year off of measuring it. And I think, as you and I have spoken about before, oftentimes organizations will experience a dip because if they don't measure it with regularity, sometimes the effort falters a little bit over that time. Tomorrow, Svetlana will be sharing similar results with our administrative team and then arranging to meet with them individually to talk about their building and department results over the course of probably the month of June, so that we're in a good position to set new goals, recalibrate the goals based on this most current data for next year.
She's a team member of ours who comes from an elite district in the nation, where their district has the highest rated results we've ever seen in a decade and a half, no matter the industry. Their district was 95% across the entire district. It's a 6 or 7 building district in the north suburbs of Chicago. And the particular building where she was an administrator was 100% multiple years. So she's lived in the world where engagement was created at an elite level. And that's a great advantage for you guys, for us, to share her with you for ideas that are very practical and can have big impact. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the time. Here to help answer any questions anytime that you have any, and we appreciate being able to support you.
Thank you.
Would you please make sure that you have sent this data to the district so that we can see it? We were only able to see it by you sharing your screen tonight.
Yes, Theron, I think Jared did send it either Friday or today.
Yeah, I think I do have the district-wide results, so I can push that out.
And then I guess this question is for Theron. Will the board be able to see disaggregated data?
We haven't in the past, but if the board would like to see that, you'll see within the district-wide results, you'll see a breakdown and a trend line of the overall ratings for the 3 years that we've administrated the test, but not the nuts and bolts of the individual building or department data. But if there's a desire to see that, we can provide that as well.
Well, at least elementary combined and then secondary buildings combined, if you want to do that. But
yeah, we don't get it broken out that way. It's by individual building or department. So like we'll get individual printouts on like the custodian employee workforce or buildings and grounds workforce. We'll get a separate one for central office staff because we operate as a team as well. I can talk with them if there's a desire to combine teams. It probably would maybe make more sense to look at the elementaries together than the secondaries, in my opinion. But we haven't had that report in the past. We could ask if it can be done.
okay. And at the high school would be the only places that it would be broken out by department. It would not be done at the elementary level.
The departments are district-wide departments. So it'd be, again, most of those are our support staff, or like our administrative team is in a separate report, you know, across the district.
But it would be all teachers together, not separated by.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity to support you. Have a good night.
You bet. Moving on to Ryan. You have a sports update for us.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, and I need to get this virtual background off. Okay, well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of the Marshalltown High School Activities Department. For those watching, don't know who I am, I'm Ryan Isgreg. I'm the high school activities director here at Marshalltown. So as many of you know, we did get the okay from the state a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago to go ahead with the summer sports season. So Dr. Schutte asked me to present today on behalf of kind of what our plan is as a school. You know, I'll say the last few weeks or the last couple months, you know, with the unfortunate announcement of spring sports, you know, it's been somewhat quiet around here in this office, you know, but it's not to say we've been busy. But we've gotten to several projects and things that were maybe on hold, but you know, with the announcement of summer sports happening, because we weren't really sure when that announcement was going to come, our life's kind of turned upside down the last 2 weeks. So there are several guidelines and planning and things that went in place. I want to really thank you know, my team around here in the Roundhouse, Kate and Jerry and Cindy, and of course have conversations about transportation and Rex and the Building and Grounds Department. And of course, there's other ADs in the conference. So everything's new. So I will show you my PowerPoint slides here in a second. You know, this thing is ongoing. You know, things are changing daily and weekly. And, you know, some things we got just late last week. So, you know, we still don't know exactly what this or that might look like. So hopefully by the end of today, you can at least see, for the most part, our basic plan of what we're going to do to ensure the safety of everyone involved with practices, games, and so forth. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen if I can. Yes, okay. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'll play it from the start. Oh, that's the wrong PowerPoint. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. All right. So again, just going through the plans of what we're going to do. You know, there's several guidelines and regulations out there. You know, I was asked tonight just to kind of give a somewhat of a short version of it. You know, we did have a baseball, softball parent meetings last week where we went through all the guidelines expected of coaches and players. And so, you know, it's a collaborative effort really with the governor, the Iowa High School Athletics Association, the Iowa Girls Union, the Department of Ed, the Department of Public Health, and then of course, you know, like anything, you know, there are other local decisions schools can make to you know, make sure that the kids and coaches are following local guidelines as well. So one of the first things we're doing that is somewhat new is we're providing a COVID waiver, which is posted to our athletic website. And we did have all the kids and parents sign before they're able to participate, which was today. June 1st is the first day of practice. So I'll go ahead and show this to you if I can. Hopefully it works. So this is our COVID-19 consent agreement form. Basically, the parent and the kid is both allowed to initial or required to initial and sign the waiver. And, you know, it basically says that participation in athletics is purely voluntary. You know, they understand all the risks involved. If they have any symptoms or illnesses, you know, they're not allowed to come to practice or games. And then, of course, you know, they're supposed to let us know if they have any suspected symptoms. And of course, they're supposed to sign it and then hand it to the activities office. And today we had all the kids hand them in, so that was great. You know, sometimes we're chasing paperwork down for kids the last minute, considering the short turnaround they had to get it in. I think they did a good job today to get that into us. Also, we do have the protocol to our website, our athletic website, of what that looks like if a kid is or a coach or someone who lives with somebody who has COVID-19, kind of what the criteria is so they can return to practice or games. So you can see all that here. There's stay home for 14 days. Maintain social distancing, or here, it's 10 days. And this is straight from the Department of Health and from our school nurse, Stacy, who provided this for us. So we went over this with the team and the coaches last week. And again, we have it updated to our athletic website. So just some safety measures that are in place. First of all, I do want to say, just how much I appreciate our coaches in general, and especially this year. We have some great coaches here, and it's hard enough to coach. Especially in our conference. The challenges we're faced with going against some bigger schools, but now we're expecting them to do a lot of additional, guidelines that, they're not used to doing. It's hard enough to, all the details and stuff coaches are required to do to have a successful program. And now we're asking them to do a lot of other things this year. So I appreciate their leadership. And also, we have 4 new baseball coaches this year, so for 4 new baseball coaches to come into a program, with high expectations is a challenge. And then again, in addition to have to work through a lot of these additional guidelines. So there are guidelines in place for practice as well as games. So practices and games are going to look a little different this year. First of all, is posting signage around the facility. The state did provide signage, and we were able to post that to the facilities this morning. So we got them up before practice, and we're getting some more made, some bigger ones that are going to get blown up and put around. So they should be in time for games on June 15th. No dugouts will be used for practices. So, usually as an AD, you probably won't see me go down to practice 4 or 5 times a day like I did today, but I did walk down to baseball and softball and saw all the softball girls' bags spread out and 6 feet apart. And so, I think it's great that our coaches and kids are already following these, and, I know they're going to do it the rest of the year. Parents have to remain in their cars to drop off and pick up kids. Some kids can obviously drive, but there's some parents who like to come and watch practice, or maybe get out of their car and socialize with another parent. Well, they can't do that this year. They have to sit in their car. And of course, we encourage the kids to leave the premises immediately after practice. We don't want them to kind of hang out and socialize. I know the kids haven't seen each other in a few weeks, but we want them to kind of go home and shower when they're done with practice and games. So of course, players, as always, should use their own gloves and bats as much as possible. The school, we do have helmets and bats that they can use. But we also have, are ensuring our coaches, our coaches are to design practices to ensure social distancing as much as possible. So again, another challenge for them to, kind of restructure their practices, make sure kids are spread out, the transition between drills, maybe when they have team huddles, they're spread out, all that stuff. So it's a challenge for them, but I know they'll do a good job. Of course, bring their own waters. We can't have the kids sharing waters. And in the past for games, we would provide water as a school for the home and the visiting team. We can't do that this year. So kids are encouraged, in the hot summer days to obviously hydrate, but we want them even more this time to make sure that they're bringing their own waters. And again, when I walked out to practice today, it looked like all the kids had their own waters. So that was great to see. And of course, coaches are sanitizing shared equipment. So we do have spray bottles and things, kind kind of the backpack. I don't even know what it's called, but the backpack that they wear where they can, have a little spray gun thing that they wipe down the shared equipment. We have sanitation wipes in the dugouts. So coaches are required to clean the equipment before and after practice. Yeah, and a few other ones, kids are encouraged to provide their own hand sanitizer. We do plan to get hand sanitizer out there for games for fans to use. And of course, banning spitting of sunflower seeds, which is going to be probably tough for some baseball people and softball people, but that's a requirement this year. And of course, coaches are required now. We're requiring our coaches to screen kids' temperatures. So, we do have temperatures that our school nurse provided, and they're going to track temperatures every day. Before practice starts, they're going to, we've ordered the laser gun type, whatever they're called, the thermometers where they don't have to touch each other with it. They can stand back and get a read of what their temperature is on the forehead. So that's practices. And then of course there's the games, which are beginning on June 15th. So we've been working hard to finalize our schedule, which we will are planning to host a game on June 15th, a baseball, softball game. So again, we can use dugouts for games though, of course. And a lot of these things are kind of repeated here, the bats and the no shared drinking, sanitizing the equipment. So one of the things that's going to be new is that we're supposed to limit the seating for fans. So again, like I said earlier, this is new. We're not 100% sure what that's going to look like yet. We have further meetings coming up as a conference of how many fans we're going to allow into games and marking seats off. And we're not going to put the wind tarp up in the outfield so people can space out in the outfield and sit out there and watch the game. So we'll mark that off. We have 2 weeks before games, so we have a little time to figure this out. And then of course a new one this year is no concession stands. So that's unfortunate. It's a good revenue maker for us, but the state is not letting anyone have concessions this year.
This seems pretty thorough. I just have one note to make that may not actually be relevant to anything but your notes page, but you have 2 links on slide 3. You have 2 links on that slide. The second one comes up with an error message, just so you know.
Okay.
It's the Marshalltown HSIA one school ourschoolteams.com thing.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm not that concerned about it. I think you've done a thorough job in laying this stuff out and
Sure.
looking at the Iowa guidelines and stuff too. But just so you know, if that's on a website or anything like that.
Yeah, and
give me an error message.
So yeah, it's coming up on mine. And we did change it late last Friday, so that might have something to do with it. But yeah, and if you can see my screen, this is what it looks like on our school web. If you go to our athletic website, I'll try it again to make sure it's working. I appreciate you letting me know, but it's a more in-depth version of what we went through. Just frequently asked questions of what coaches and games. I was told to keep it somewhat brief tonight. So
that's great. It's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks for letting me know. And so I'll kind of go to the next slide then. And I talked about games. We are going to also post signs that will highly encourage fans to wear masks. We're not going to require it as of right now, but we're going to highly encourage it. And then of course with our ticket takers, we haven't fully figured that out yet as a conference. There's some conferences in the state that will charge admission, some will not, some will just put like a free bucket donation out there. I think I'm pretty confident we will charge admission, and if we do, I think we have good safety measures in place. I know we can get a glass thing for the ticket taker. where they're safely behind a table. We will mark off X's that where their parent or if you're waiting to get processed to get into the game, they can be 6 feet away. So we'll mark off spots, you know, kind of like if you go to a gas station or whatever right now, that's how it is. So like I said, there was a lot to figure out this last week. Transportation to games. This was something that was, again, it came out late last week. You know, we do anticipate we will use multiple buses to get to games. Having conversations with Rex, our transportation director, he does have many bus drivers who are willing to drive, you know. That was obviously a concern. Maybe some of them wouldn't feel comfortable driving. So we plan to have enough drivers, which is great. And we plan to open windows. You know, one thing we've talked with Rex is, you know, we'll require the bus drivers to stay at the game site. So, you know, sometimes bus drivers like to, you know, drop the team off and then they go off and maybe go to a McDonald's or something and, you know, sit in the air conditioning and get something to eat. But, you know, this time we're going to require them to stay at the game site and, you know, they'll have to bring their own lunch or whatever, their own drink and watch the game. Of course, again, this is ongoing, but spacing on buses, we're looking at, you know, something like every other seat or limiting the number of kids who can travel. We'll kind of see how that goes. And of course, we'll sanitize the bus before and after. We are a local decision. We are requiring kids to wear masks on the bus, which we will require them to, or we're looking at providing for the players. And then we would also allow the players to ride home with the parents if possible. And we're, again, ongoing discussions about if a kid can ride to the game with their parents or not. Usually we don't allow that just for liability issues. And, you know, you always question it, you know, if a kid might tell you that they're riding with their parent, but then they drive to the game on their own. Or maybe they ride with boyfriend or girlfriend or, you know, whatever, they're in a car with 5 other kids. Or they're late or they get lost, you know, there's a lot of things to consider with that. So, you know, I at least at this point, I can confidently say that we'll have enough buses available, buses will be clean, and we'll have enough room for kids, and we would probably allow them to ride home with their parents. And of course, you know, like I said, it's just been we've tried to communicate out as much as possible. We had parent meetings last week. We have had coaches meetings. We've you know, tried to post everything to our athletic website. So it's kind of all in one place so people can go there and see what's going on, use social media. You know, it's been tough to get the word out to kids and parents a little bit just because we haven't been in school, you know, and so we've had to rely on a lot of word of mouth, and we try to get the word out best we can. But again, it's been a lot of work these past 2 weeks to, you know, just to get to our first day of practice, which was today. And we'll continue to seek feedback. And, you know, I know we've implemented some local rules, you know, as far as making kids wear masks in dugouts during games. And, you know, we'll continue to take that under consideration. And like I said, it's ongoing. You know, we're taking it one day at a time right now. You know, things could look completely different a week from now. But I think right now I'm confident we have a great start to the season after day one. We've had a lot of work these last 2 weeks to get to this point, and we'll continue to go forward. I'm confident. So with that being said, I'll open up to questions.
I'll just add, Ryan, to what you said as you were going through the Department of Ed document. The Department of Ed, in consultation with the Department of Public Health or in collaboration with, has provided the minimum expectations for health and safety as it relates to providing the opportunity for kids to play summer baseball and softball. I think we have to remember that Marshall County still is one of the hottest counties in Iowa for the number of positive cases here. And because of that, you know, we've taken those minimal expectations and I think in a reasonable way expanded them a little bit. For example, the Department of Ed said that you can rely on the student athletes themselves or their parents to temp check daily. Well, we're going to temp check with our coaches will be doing the temp checking for our student athletes as well as themselves and recording it, since they're required to record attendance every day anyway. So that if we do have inordinate numbers of absences, we have to report that to the state or Department of Public Health. As has been mentioned, the two areas of greatest concern with our ability to logistically create necessary social distance would be the buses, as you've mentioned, and the transportation, which in part is why we're considering allowing parents to transport their kids if they so choose, and the dugouts. The CDC has not changed what they consider to be the 4 primary conditions that need to exist in order to best prevent or mitigate the spread of this virus. Screening is one, sanitizing is another, social distancing is a third, and wearing masks is a fourth. We've been evaluating a variety of different mask options, both from a breathability and an athletic standpoint, as well as from a cost standpoint. And as Ryan mentioned, we're in the process of buying athletic masks for our student athletes, even though they will not be actively competing at the time that they're wearing them. Again, they're going to be wearing them only in 2 locations, or if they wish to wear them at other times, that's absolutely fine. But the dugouts and the buses are a must for any of the athletes, coaches, or drivers to have masks on. Also, Mrs. Wyant is in the process of purchasing masks that all of our workers, whether they're paid or volunteered, will be required to wear as well at the events. And we're going to be strongly recommending that our spectators wear. We're not going to require it, but we're going to be strongly recommending that they wear it as well. I think a lot of people saw in Des Moines that if we're playing Des Moines, it's a requirement that anyone that gets in the gate wears a mask. So we're not taking it that far, but I believe that we're taking reasonable steps to best ensure under our current circumstances in Marshall County that our players, our student athletes, our coaches, and hopefully our spectators stay healthy and well.
Any questions for either Ryan or Dr. Schutte?
I would just say, this is Sarah, I'm sorry. I would just say I have a concern about the masks and the dugouts too, not from the CDC requirements. I totally understand that. I worry about it in the heat. And as these players are standing there yelling for their teammates, like if we get into a hyperventilation situation, are we prepared for that? Or somebody who has a heat stroke or something such as that. I just, like, tomorrow is going to be extremely warm, and I would not really want to be outside in a face mask and try and breathe and scream and yell. I understand the rationale why. I totally do. I just hope that we're prepared for maybe, a bit of an extra healthcare issue. That was just a comment. That's all.
Well, I was wondering about that. I mean, would it be possible for students who are in a dugout situation and who are uncomfortable with that mask to step outside the dugout and take their mask off? Because that would help alleviate some of that issue.
Yeah, I can answer that. So there are some new rules out there where we can possibly extend the dugout, which you might have heard a comment earlier about canopies and things like that. And again, it's just, it's a little early for us to say one way or the other. I haven't had a whole lot of time to look at these new rules for the dugouts. Again, we have conference meetings this week. If that's an option where kids can be out of the dugout, that's great. One thing we want to consider with kids outside the dugout is safety. If they're standing outside the dugout, like anyone, they can get hit by a foul ball. We will have athletic trainers at all of our games. We still plan to have Sports Plus athletic trainers on site of all of our home games. Dr. Schutte, did you want to add anything?
Well, I know it was mentioned by Mrs. Pollard that Mr. Palmer, the softball coach, has been looking at some options. To my knowledge, those haven't been fully vetted or discussed with either Ryan or our buildings and grounds director. And any extension of the dugouts is going to require all of our agreement that we're not creating another unsafe situation for kids. A lot of bad things happen in that close proximity to where the batters are. And so, yeah, it might be possible for us to figure out something to where, you know, part of the team does not need to be in the dugout. But again, I think people are thinking of these masks as being these thick, breathing inhibiting masks, and these are very breathable masks. They're not medically, you know, they're not medical masks per se. They're designed with athletes in mind, so they're of a material that allows for people to easily breathe or not. And hopefully we play well enough that you know, it doesn't wind up being an issue with kids needing to be in dugouts for an extraordinary amount of time. But you know, we'll play that by ear, and we're still open to. There could be things changed, you know, day to day on this in terms of changes or requirements. One of the things is that both Ryan and I have spoken to with the CIML is the more consistent that we can be across the conference and what the expectations are for players as well as fans, the better, in terms of just not creating confusion for people that there's one thing expected one place and one at another. And you know, that's already been a bit challenging because, as I mentioned, Des Moines put some pretty restrictive conditions in, including only playing varsity baseball and softball. So we'll continue to update, but if we're going to err, I'd rather err on the side of caution and safety than taking chances at this point.
Well, some of the masks really are very breathable. I mean, I use masks in the summer when I'm working with the chickens, and even in the heat. It depends on the mask. As you've said, some of the masks are quite usable, I guess.
Yeah, these are designed for athletes in competition, so I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, and as Dr. Schutte mentioned as well, Des Moines put in some pretty stricter guidelines than others, and one of them is, you know, I know one of the comments made earlier was we're one of the only schools doing this, or we're the only school doing this. For what it's worth, the Des Moines Public Schools is also requiring their kids to wear masks in the dugouts.
Other questions?
Yeah, Ryan, did you see a decrease or amount of kids that went out for softball or baseball?
Yeah, good question. Well, our baseball numbers are a little down this year, but close to the same. You know, I mean, we're still able to play the same levels. We plan to play a freshman schedule as well as a varsity schedule, and we'll have a few JV games mixed in there. Our softball numbers are good. I can't get you an exact number right now, just because, you know, it's first day of practice, and we always have some kids on the fence of who's going to play and who's not. That's why we're usually chasing kids down for paperwork and things. But yeah, and for softball, we plan to play a 9th grade, a JV, and a varsity schedule. And, you know, one of the challenges was with, like Dr. Schutte mentioned, was Des Moines Public, you know, they're only doing varsity only. Well, towards the end of the season, we got all the Des Moines Public Schools on our schedule back to back. So one of the challenges last week was to try and, you know, find a few more games or a few more freshman games to fill our schedule. So we were able to do that, which is great. So.
May I have a motion to approve the plans and procedures for implementing a safe and successful high school baseball and softball season for the summer of 2020?
Unteed second.
McGinnis, Unteed, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Jackie.
Hello again. I am excited to present our list of 375 students who've been invited to participate in our graduation ceremonies. We have sent out forms for them to indicate whether or not they're going to participate, and some are going to use the extended time that they have between now and June 28th to finalize a few credits. So we're hoping our graduation rate will be closer to that 90% that we are always aiming for. So what you see there is the list of all 375 from MHS and MLA presented tonight to graduate. Some are not ready to receive their diplomas today, but will be ready by June 28th.
Okay. Questions for Jackie? May I have a motion to approve the 2020 graduation list as presented?
Heitman, so moved.
I'll second it.
Heitman, Faltis, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Schutte.
So every year, the Iowa Association of School Boards asks us as local school boards and or districts to choose from the large number of possible legislative priorities what for us in Marshalltown are our top priorities. And those legislative priorities don't change a lot from year to year for the most part. For example, I think we've got attached last year's board approved resolutions, the 2019 there. Someone can open that. 2019, the other one. So last year, our priorities were school funding, which generally winds up being number one. Our number two was something that our board added many years ago. There's a difference between unfunded mandates and underfunded mandates. And I think a few elections ago, one of the campaigns was no more unfunded mandates, but then all of a sudden we started to find a lot of underfunded mandates coming through. So we added that one in there. Mental health obviously has been up there really high for us as well as the state and the country. English learners has always been in our top four. Again, we're the fourth highest in total number of English language learners, students, second language students, and fourth highest in population density as well, fourth or fifth in there. And then early childhood literacy. They really only accept 4. We've given them 5 in the past, and sometimes we've combined things to make sure everything that we want is included. But I believe that they really want us to send things to them the way that they present them in order for them to get chosen. And then what happens is, so I'm providing you this information so that you can go back and look over this stuff. Let us know if there's something particular that you would like considered, and then Sean and I will put forward a proposed list of legislative resolutions, if not by June 15th, for sure by the July meeting, because in early August, then we need to, at least by early August, we need to approve those and submit them to the Iowa Association of School Boards. And then in conjunction with their annual conference in November, they have a delegate assembly, which B has graciously served as our delegate. I think Sean did it last year, I believe. And it's there that they then vote on what IASB's legislative priorities are based on what all the school districts send in. So take your time to look through the large number of possible priorities. If you think there's something that warrants our consideration beyond what we've had on the list, let B, Sean, or I know, or all three of us.
Questions for Dr. Schutte? Okay. You're still up, Dr. Schutte.
And we have a proposal for increasing our substitute teacher pay by $5 a day, taking it from, it's been at $115 for at least the past 4 years, because we haven't provided an increase during my tenure here. We're proposing that it goes up $5 a day to $120 a day effective next year. This would put us in a regionally very competitive or favorable position for substitutes, and a pretty comparable position with like-sized schools across the state. There's some that pay more, some that pay less. This would put us in a good place for our region where we're competing for substitutes. And I know it's greatly appreciated by our strong pool of substitutes.
Questions for Dr. Schutte? May I have a motion to increase the daily per diem pay rate for licensed substitute teachers from $115 to $120 per day, effective August 24th, 2020.
McGinnis, so moved.
Unteed, second.
McGinnis, Unteed, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0. Amy, we haven't heard from you yet tonight.
Hello. I am here to talk about a MediaCom contract. This is something that we have been working on for a while now. As you know, I've asked you in the past a couple of times about purchasing hotspots. Those hotspots were to get our students immediately connected and to give those students whom we really needed to graduate and finish dual enrolled classes and now looking into summer school. So we really looked at getting them those hotspots so that we could quickly come up with an access solution. We have been doing this internet survey in conjunction with paras and teachers and other constituents in the district. And in the end, we've come up with 1,047 families who either responded, no, they don't have the internet, or we couldn't get them to respond. Of those 1,047 families, we have 437 families whom MediaCom has deemed eligible through a few of their criteria for a $10 a month package for internet. So they would get pretty decent quality internet for $10 a month. We are proposing, and we have asked our lawyers to look at this contract, and they have approved it, a contract that we would pay for 1 year of these 437, we would pay for 1 year contract with MediaCom with a minimum of 100 families on that contract. So the contract itself, and I can pull that up, is here. And as you see, the original installation would be for 437 families. However, we would only be promising to pay for 100 families for the term of the year. So that is what my little table down here denotes. If we paid for 437 families $10 a month for 6 months, that would be a cost of $26,000. Then if we decided we don't have a true need at this point for 437 families to have access, and nothing else has happened at the state level, then we could go down to 100 families having internet access for $10 a month for 6 months. So it would bring the total that we're asking to be $32,220. So we're asking to partner with Mediacom to install quality internet for 437 families that we have worked with district-wide to figure out they don't have internet. And then at this point, we'd be saying probably no longer than 6 months unless the state comes up with some guidelines and some help for how we would provide broadband to our constituents, our families. So at this point, just the 437 families with the option after a few months to go down to 100 families for the rest of the year.
How would we decide what families we were dropping out of that 437 to get us down to 100?
Well, we would work with obviously people like Jackie Wyatt, who maybe would have dual enrolled students, or students with attendance issues. We might even be looking at a long-term continuous learning situation, which we already know we're looking at. We just don't know how long. So we don't know with 100% that we would drop down to 100, but then we don't even know that we would necessarily say 100 kids or families get it. We might just say, due to this contract, we're going to keep spending this money for the last 6 months and no families would get it, or we would pinpoint with administrators special reasons why certain families would get it. Truthfully, we're hoping, and Dr. Schutte and Paulette can jump on this, that the state is going to jump in and help with this pretty much. It sounds like from Pam Jacobs at E-Rate that this might be something that E-Rate starts taking on to help supply broadband, but we think we'll definitely know within 6 months what that's going to look like. So we think it's a reasonable cost of $6,000 of, hey, maybe nobody has internet at this point, or maybe just the 100 families, or at 6 months, I'd bring it to the board again and ask, hey, can we leave everyone connected for another 6 months? So unfortunately, the pathways aren't as clear cut as I would like them to be, but I think we do have options, and I think it's relatively affordable when you look at the really other option is a hotspot, which is much more expensive than the proposed $32,000.
And where is that $32,000 coming from?
At this point, this is still all coming from CARES funding, from the special funding for COVID.
From that 891,000 for COVID.
You mean we haven't spent all of that yet?
We're about there.
I'm sure doing my best to spend it all, B.
Amy's doing a good job.
Is there any of this that could come out of PEPL?
We would have to change our PEPL budget then. We have everything in our PEPL budget allocated out to buses and Chromebooks and things like that.
So,
Karina, you had a question?
Yeah. So out of the 1,047 families who don't have internet nor have responded, only 437 applied for this Mediacom, or was it offered to them and then maybe the others didn't qualify, or what? Why these 437?
We gave a list to Mediacom and said, are these people eligible for this program. MediaCom told us out of that number who was eligible. A lot of that had to do with if they didn't have the infrastructure by that apartment building or to those rental houses. And they know from experience that without having all of that done ahead of time, they're not going to be able to get these families installed by August. Now, it doesn't mean that it'll never happen, but that's exactly what we're working with. Tomorrow I'm part of a round table discussion. I'm not actually speaking, but I did submit questions for Representative Finkenauer, and the conversation is about getting broadband access to families across Iowa and what that looks like. So hopefully, as this rolls forward, actual infrastructure will be built into places so that we can easily get our families connected. We just keep in mind that we do have those 300 hotspots. So we're really talking about us having the ability to get internet to over 700 families right now out of the 1,047. So we really just need to keep on it all summer, kind of doing these surveys, checking in with families, because families are constantly getting internet on their own. They're moving, and then the place they've moved to can have internet. So we don't want to suggest we buy more hotspots until we get a little deeper into this summer, just so we can really see what the actual image is, what we're actually dealing with.
And I'm guessing you're working in collaboration with the summer programming to assure that all those kids have internet.
Yep, this week, last week, I had the techs in my department personally call every single person on the invitees list for summer school who identified that they don't have internet or they didn't respond. We contacted both. If they didn't initially respond or they didn't have internet, we contacted them if they were going to be invited. And we hand delivered or had people pick up, or even had some administrators come pick up and take to multiple families. And then this week, as they're doing the locker desktop clean out, everyone who we couldn't get a hold of, we checked out a device, put it in a baggie, and then gave those totes to the schools. So then the schools are helping us finish the process of getting those devices into kids' hands and families' hands.
Perfect, thank you.
Other questions? May I have a motion to approve the agreement for CATV and MediaCom Online Services contract as presented with a service term for 1 year?
Move for approval, Hernandez.
Second, Untied.
Hernandez, Untied. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Schutte, back to you.
Yeah, so this kind of ties in nicely with what Amy was just talking about. The AESA, the School Superintendents Association, has asked for superintendents and their school boards to sign on to a resolution promoting to support a safe, healthy, and district-specific reopening process informed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines. And I think a big part of this and a big part of the push of AESA ever since I've been on their governing or executive board has been to help promote and or provide broadband access, especially in rural areas, but in areas where it doesn't exist as well. So I talked to Bea earlier about whether she thought we needed to read this entire resolution. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it yourselves, but a lot of it is just talking in general about asking the federal legislators to support equitable and adequate funding for schools, and especially now as it relates to these COVID costs for health, safety, disinfecting, PPE equipment, broadband internet access, just to name a few. So I would ask the board consideration of approving this resolution so that B can sign it and we can send it on.
Questions about the resolution? May I have a motion to approve the Marshalltown Community School District and the AASA resolution as presented?
So moved, Baltus.
Reitman, second.
Baltus, Heitman, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0. Paulette.
All right. You may recall we've had, over the past several months, we've had conversations regarding our property liability work comp coverage, and effective July 1st, we will be switching our coverage providers to Argent for work comp and EMC for our property liability. So this is just the actual approval to pay for our workers' compensation policy for the fiscal 21 school year.
Questions for Paulette? May I have a motion to approve the workers' compensation offer of coverage from Argent for the 2020-2021 school year?
Unteed, so moved.
Reitman, second.
Unteed, Heitman, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The motion carries 6-0. And let's hear it for board policies. There's only one there today. Hooray! I do need to thank everyone for their work in getting the policies looked at, reviewed, approved, and so on throughout the school year. And we won't see any more of these until August, Theron? Is that right?
Is
Never say never.
I not to be
Write a few.
We
not
should
to
not,
rain on the parade, but I have a couple I'd like to put forward.
Oh, troublemaker.
All right.
Sorry.
Not tonight.
Not tonight, not ready, but some related to FMLA and a long-term leave policy that's on my to-do list. So don't hurt the messenger.
Well, I think it should wait until August.
our
I'd like
regular,
it implemented and passed before everyone comes back.
I see.
But
yeah,
it's
our regular cycle of policy reviews will not begin till August.
Okay, there's a good way to sidestep it. Thank you.
So 6.01, this is the first reading of our board policy, which you saw last week. It's policy 312.3E1, fringe benefits for administrators and supervisors. We had two changes that were tied in with the meeting confer. One was to have 2 personal days instead of the 1 paid and 1 pay for the sub day to mirror our teachers. And the other was to add, I believe it was we added language to bereavement leave, which had not been added in conjunction with changes that were made with the other employee groups.
Questions for Dr. Schutte? May I have a motion to amend 312.3E1 and waive the second reading?
McGinnis so moved.
Heitman, second.
McGinnis, Heitman, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you all. Motion carries 6-0. Any items of note in communication, Mr. Sodders?
Well, I just wanted to share a brief update on the email marketing side of things. So you all get my or the district's Bobcat newsletter every week. And over the last couple of months, which have been tumultuous for everybody, in April, it looked like, and I can explain some of these terms briefly too, it looked like our open rate, which is when one of those emails is sent with good news stories and links and things like that, 38% of people, so a little over a third, open the email. And when they did that, of those who opened the email, 7% of them clicked through it. That means they clicked on a link or sought more information based on what they saw in the newsletter. So 38% opened, and then 7% of those clicked within the email. And then in May, we saw a dip in the amount of opens for those weekly newsletters. We saw 28% open the emails, but we also saw an increase in the click rate. We saw a 1% increase, so 8% actually clicked through when they saw the when they opened the newsletter. So the reason those are important is because they show levels of engagement whenever those are sent. Over the last couple of months, it's looked like that click rate has hovered around 7 and 8%, which, looking at Constant Contact data, which is the company we go through to do the email marketing, that is well within their average click rate across industries. And I'm happy to report that the 38% open rate in April and the 28% open rate in May are both considered to be outstanding for open rates across industries. Usually they say most folks expect 10 to 15% for an individual campaign. So those are good averages, even though we saw a dip in the open rate from last month to this month. So, and
So
I'm happy. Oh, go ahead.
should we refer to those numbers when we look at the HumanX information and people say that they don't feel in the loop?
Well, that is definitely one. That's definitely one of the one of those. I do send them. So there's a group of stakeholders, community stakeholders that those get sent to. Of course, you guys get them. All of our staff get the newsletters, and parents get the newsletters. So it kind of is a wide coverage. But yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Looking at reminders, the Finance Committee is coming up with a meeting. Our next board meeting is June 15th. We only have one meeting in July, but also please note the 2 board work sessions for the building center attendance plans. And if you have not notified Theron yet that you are able or unable to attend those work sessions, please be sure to do that. Have we had any committees meet since last we met? What have we done tonight to improve the education for the students in Marshalltown?
I think the contract with MediaCom helping to get more of our families connected so that they can continue to engage in learning when they can't be at school is a really big deal.
Thank you.
We approved our 2020 class of seniors.
375 so far.
And I think it was good to hear the Humanics district-wide, overview survey results. A lot of positive trend line data there.
It was very
You
positive.
also approved a lot of really important new hires, new teachers, teacher leaders, summer instructors, all kinds of people that make the system keep rolling.
And as Amy Pollard pointed out in the chat, summer sports are coming back.
Yes.
Well, thank you all. Are there any items for future agendas? My quote for this evening comes from Mother Teresa. I think that she is someone that helps us view things during this time. She said, "Don't be impressed by money, followers, degrees, and titles. Do be impressed by kindness, integrity, humility, and generosity." May you all be blessed with all of the items in the latter list. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Heitman, so moved.
Second, Hernandez.
Heitman, Hernandez. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.